So, now that you've refreshed yourself, folks, we'll head into part 2 of our show.
That's right.
But before we start, and we get a lot of serious stuff in here.
Yep.
But before we start, something jumped out at me in the Wall Street Journal. The performance review is back.
Meaning corporate
In
employment.
In corporate employment, one of the things that both employer and employee dread
Yeah.
was the performance review. Every 6 months at the Foxborough company, you got a review. How you doing, you know? And on other jobs, it was kind of, I worked for a couple of small companies and it was like an annual review, but I used to do it quarterly. I was the rare bird that thought the performance review was very important. And I wanted to make sure that you and I were on the same page going forward. And I wanted to make sure you understood that I was happy about A, B, C, D, and E of your performance. But F needs some work. And G, we need to talk about. I think you're off the rails a little bit. So let's talk about how you did and all that. And I would put time into this stuff so that I could do the best I could for the people that worked for me. Now, other guys used to call me an idiot and a moron and wasting time. And I just bring them in and say, you know what, you're doing okay. Got any bitching to do? And all right, if not, get back out there and get to work. To me, that was awful. If they did that, if my boss did that to me, I would have been all over him.
I never had too much exposure to them or given them in that a lot of my years I was self-employed. I was in sales, but I was a contract person.
Yeah.
So you don't get involved too much in that. But I did have some when I worked for people like Stanley, but again, it was very informal. It was not a formal function like they did.
Well, it's funny because you said that. Because there were forms, I refused to use them. I did a free flow.
No, I'm sure the people...
Mine was like writing someone a letter.
I'm sure the people in corporate had that scheduled Tuesday morning. You were going to sit down for your review, but the field people didn't have much to do with that.
No. No, I mean, look, you're meeting your numbers or you're not.
That's right, exactly.
Yeah, and your expense accounts within normal boundaries. So what else?
They didn't laugh too loud when they got them.
Yeah, the great act of fiction.
Creative writing. They called it.
But I actually enjoyed sitting down with everybody and talking to them. And I had some whack jobs working for me too.
I did too.
Time that was a bit of a struggle. Even if I was praising them, it was not enough. Whatever. Anyway, I don't see how anybody could really be judged worthy of a raise working from home.
That's a good point, because you really don't know if they're doing their job. They're doing it enough just to stay under the radar.
Yeah.
But are they doing a great job or a good job or just the job?
Doing enough to get by.
Just the job, yep.
And so that when someone does over and above, like, for instance, if I got a big request for quotation, and the salesman sent it in to me and says, Billy, I need this by noontime tomorrow. Well, if I had to go home have my supper, and then go back to work and work till 10 o'clock or something like that, I would do it, okay? But no one ever knew it.
Yeah.
And the same thing applies at home. If a guy is busting, or a gal is busting her butt at home and says, you know what, I'm just going to have to roll up my sleeves here and bang on this computer until it coughs up the right answers, no one's ever going to know.
No.
So how do you judge?
You can't.
You can't, that's
you
right.
can't. That's the bottom line. And that so many people like working from home because, there's a lot of, I don't care what you say, but if you're working from home, you're not quite putting in the
Yeah.
effort that you were sitting in the office with your boss sitting across the hall from you.
Maybe at 8 o'clock you are up out of bed in case
Yeah.
the phone rings.
But you might be
But
8:30 too.
You're in your jammies
that's right.
and you're making breakfast
Yep.
and having your second cup of coffee, and it's probably 9 o'clock. Although
people will
if
say,
they're
"Oh
smart.
no, not me." Not
if
me."
they're smart, though, they'll sign on to their computer
Oh,
at
absolutely.
8 o'clock.
Yeah, or
Up
earlier.
and running.
Yeah, up
Yep.
and running. Yep.
Yep. Doing some other stuff right now, but yeah, and everybody knows
Yeah,
that you're in your jammies and you know.
Mm-hmm.
But doesn't the overachiever, the guy that is really trying to get ahead, that really and truly wants to have a future, he gets lost in this. He gets unrecognized. About the only way that I think corporations can handle this is say, everybody gets a 6% raise and forget about it.
Yeah, I know.
Because I have no way of judging, really. Unless somebody's a total screw up.
Sales are a little different.
Yeah, well, yeah.
You got a quantitative analysis of how many dollars came in and what profit, et cetera. But if somebody works on strategic planning, for example, how do you quantify that? You can't.
Market research.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
another black hole. Yeah. So, I mean, how do you quantify it, Or a creative advertising campaign. Oh, boy. I mean, sometimes the Foxborough, it was the greatest place in the world to work, but sometimes they went off the deep end. So, the boss, when I was in sales and marketing, said, we had a meeting and, let me run something by you guys. Next Tuesday and next Thursday, we want everybody to work until 9 o'clock. We're going to pay you time and a half, even though you're salaried. Okay? Because this is off the board as far as what you're doing in your everyday job. We want you to reimagine our advertising campaign and reimagine our magazine advertisements and come up with promotional ideas. Nothing is out of bounds. It's all going to get thrown into a hat, and we're going to take each suggestion out one at a time. Bill Kennedy sat for 4 hours, just like this. And I remember Bob Hicks walking by him and saying, "How's it going, Bill?" "I'm focusing in on things, Bob." Bob just kept walking. He was focusing in on this after work.
As soon as I get out of here.
But it was amazing how, so how do you judge? When somebody says, I'm thinking about an ad campaign. I've been asked to come up with some ideas. And what did you do today, Bill? I thought all day.
Yeah. What do you do after? Say you do come up with. I often wondered in some of these big corporations, when you do come up with an advertising, a good idea, the Geico gecko.
Yeah.
I mean, somebody come up. That was brilliant. What does he do tomorrow?
Back to the drudge, I guess.
Yeah, and then he sits there like in front of you. He just sits there and stares.
Yeah. Well, actually, the way it works at the company was that once you buy a special project.
Yeah.
All right. Back to refining general catalog number 33. That's on your plate, Bill.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you can watch ads today, and I tell Monica, I said, that one was approved by a vice president someplace. It's stupider than hell. And everybody was afraid to say, no, that's really damn dumb.
God only knows why Bob Hicks brought me into a meeting with the president of the Foxborough Company, me and two other guys. And this is the kind of stuff we were talking about. Everybody was afraid to say anything to Gary,
That was
except me.
okay.
I was
yeah.
too stupid.
That happened at a company I work for too. But
Yeah. So we came up with an idea. And Gary said, in presidential language, all right, he says, you guys push it up, I'll push it down. Meaning I'll make the people do what you want. You bring forth the idea. I'll make sure everybody gets aboard your ideas. That was it. You push up, I'll push down. Any further questions? Okay, hit the road.
yep.
Presidential. I came out and I said to Bob afterwards, I said, I had enough to say in there as it was, but I felt like saying, what the hell does that mean? You push up and I'll push down. I think what he was saying, Bill, was, jeez, president.
Oh yeah, that's it. Yeah, I had a vice president of marketing that I reported to at Stanley, and we come on an ad thing. He pushed. It was a do-it-yourself time where the DIY movement was up, and he always everything was super. He had that knowing the super. So he had, we're going with Super Doer. I said, what the hell's a Super Doer? Well, guy does super. I said, it might fly here in New England. It sure the hell ain't going to fly in Keokuk, Iowa. Yes, a Super Doer. I said, that's stupid as hell. He didn't talk to me for about 3 weeks. I thought maybe I should have said
Imagine how thin-skinned people can get.
Oh my God.
When you criticize their idea, you just called their baby ugly.
I did too.
Yeah.
Then after a while, I said, keep your mouth shut. I mean,
You know, that's a good policy. But you know what? What I kind of gravitated to late in life was, you know what? You've got a good idea there, but maybe we could do a couple of tweaks on it to make it even better. Come back to me with the ideas. Come back to me with the tweaks.
yeah.
You know, and that was it.
And later, after I learned my lesson a couple of times, we had 2 meetings a year. We had, they called it regional. They were like half the country met in June, and then in December they had a national meeting. It was usually in Florida or Puerto Rico or some really nice places. The guys used to call them minimum security prisons, because they never put you in a place where you could get out and get in trouble. It was always maybe on an island someplace. It was luxurious as hell, but you were locked in there.
Yep.
But anyway, we used to have to tell the new guys come in. They would stand up there, the management would stand up, senior management would say, we want to hear what's wrong out there. What are we doing wrong? And you'd get some of those guys, they would stand up and start telling them everything they did wrong. We have to tell them, they don't really want to hear what they're doing wrong. You're going to get blamed for some of this stuff if you tell them.
There's going to be blowback.
Yeah, just shut up. Just smile.
Shut up, or
'Cause you-
preface your remarks by saying, you know what, I really think, sir, that we're doing pretty darn well out there. Now, there's a couple of areas
If we could just
that we
tweak this a
may
little.
need to
Yeah.
tune them up a little bit. But I think our base momentum is working well for us. But here's a couple of areas where we might just
Yeah.
look at doing it a little differently and just do it temporarily and evaluate as to whether or not it's a better way to. And you know what? They always thought that was great.
That was great. It showed that you were thinking, but it didn't put them on a hot seat.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And little did I know I was just blowing steam at
Oh
them.
yeah.
Well, what do we got here that's important to talk about?
Well, I was very unimpressed with your senators.
Oh dear.
They're not mine. They're
Have they
yours.
done it again?
Oh, when they call this thing with the MBTA. Yeah, God, Pocahontas and Malarkey there. After the crap has hit the fan with the MBTA, all the things gone, then they decide, well, you're not doing the job right. No kidding. Where the hell were you 2 years ago when this was falling apart, or 3 years ago we're falling apart? Anybody knows that they're not. All you're doing is grandstanding now. They're so reactive instead of proactive. Like somebody said, if you ever came back to the state to see what the hell's really going on here, you wouldn't be behind the eight ball all the time on these things. And to sit there, and did you see him? So holier than thou, and so
And
pontificating.
But I like it too. We've got to get better
exactly.
inspection, and you know, heads need to roll. Oh God! You know, the only I just relate it to the superintendent of schools for the city of Boston.
Oh,
You know, get your money up front. Get it as the longest contract you
Yep.
can get, because you are taking a job that you are doomed on. You can never straighten out the Boston school system, ever.
No,
And
not
only
the way
that-
it's done.
And then the Boston City Council is going to be doing nothing but boom,
Yep.
shooting at you
That's right.
constantly. So make sure you get a nice big fat contract, and after 3 years, when they have had enough of you and they buy you out for the last two, you
Say-
can walk
say
away
goodbye and go to
with
Florida
a
or
nice
whatever. Yep.
big
Yep.
tote
Exactly.
in your pocket. And it's the same thing with the MBTA.
not one person. Now, I got to admit, maybe things changed. Maybe they haven't. I used to deal with the MBTA.
Yep.
We used to, in sales, we used to go contracts with the MBTA. They were, I don't want to say it, had ways of getting around contractual
Sure.
material. Now, this was 50 years ago. But everybody there that you dealt with was always somebody that knew somebody. They were always a friend of some legislature or some important person, because the MBTA, like a lot of organizations in this state, are full of cronyism and nepotism. I still believe that the MBTA is Peter Principle in action.
Oh, it definitely is. No
They
question.
brought these people in. They were inept when they brought them in. They were in there because they were Senator so-and-so's nephew that couldn't get a job at a gas station. So he calls up somebody at the MBTA, hey, hire Harry for me, will you? Okay, we'll find a job for him. But they don't put him down there laying track or digging ditches. They put him in some management job, some low-level
Shuffling
management.
paper.
Yeah. And then he maybe gets one promotion, and he reaches out his level of incompetence, and boom, they're locked right in that.
And then you go to Harry's boss,
Yep.
then goes to his boss and said, what am I supposed to do with this guy? He is as dumb as a post.
Yeah, but you can't do anything because he's related to.
You know what the answer you get is? Teach him the right way, and don't bother me anymore.
Sometimes promote him, get him out of your hair. Then he's even worse.
Yeah. And then they make him an inspector. Or
Yeah,
something.
exactly.
Yeah. Gee, what am I inspecting? I'm not.
But when they get these positions, it's not just the MBTA. A lot of people that are out around here, and they don't go on a national search they take everything from inside. You're just bringing up the same baggies that they had before into a higher level. So
You know that the bozo that you hired down here
Yeah.
is going to be the bozo
Up
that
here.
you're going to promote.
making even worse
And
decisions.
guess what? You promote him, but he's still a bozo.
That's right.
I know.
But we don't learn here.
No, we don't.
We do
What
this
we do.
over and over
We
and
do.
over.
We know the problem.
Yeah, but
you can't blast those
exactly.
people out of the way
Yep.
and run it like a business. You know what? The best thing that could ever happen to the MBTA is if they turned it into a independent organization run by private business.
Correct. That's
Then-
absolutely right.
Or the military.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
And run like the military.
and make them responsible for performance and budgetary everything else.
That's
Yep.
right. Well, the cost of running it probably would get down about 1/3
Yeah,
right
yeah,
away.
Why the new cars that they're getting? They go to a Chinese company that had no experience building rail cars ever.
And the building in Springfield, Mass.
Yeah, well that's the excuse. Well, they're built in the U.S., but they're built by a Chinese company that didn't know the wheels from a door.
Bill Clinton, we might as well blame him, forced a lot of our industry to go to China. Mm-hmm. That's what he wanted. Help the Chinese build themselves up and all that. And it was, by the way, folks, don't be fooled by Biden built in America rhetoric. It
No.
was Donald Trump that brought the business back. Make America great again. Bring the business back into the U.S. And that was the dumbest thing we ever did, was to send our industry overseas.
That's right. It was. And then we paid the price several times now.
And we're continuing to pay it.
Yep.
Look at the baby formula mess.
You gotta just remember, China is not your friend.
Let me ask you a question.
What?
Theoretically now. This is not Billy seeing shadows or
All right, go
anything.
ahead.
It's just a thought that came to me. Do you think that the Chinese are involved in sending fentanyl to Mexico, to the United States, as a deliberate plot to kill people and demoralize the U.S.?
You want my
Because it's going to foster more crime and all of that.
I have no proof. I don't know. My gut feeling is yes.
That's my gut feeling too.
Because if you can weaken, I'm not saying just any country, if you can weaken their basic infrastructure, if you can weaken their society as such, you got an advantage when it comes to the marketplace. And that organization in China, I'm not saying it's the Chinese government, but there's a group there that are somehow related. Everything goes back to related to the Chinese Communist Party, CCP. Everything, no matter who they are, there's all these tendons always tentacles go back to that CCC group. I don't care who it is or what it is. And CCP is also the Chinese military. Everything is all interacted there.
Yep.
And they've, in essence, told you that they're trying to de-influence the West's
Exactly.
influence on the world.
They want to be number
And
one.
they'll do it any way that they can.
That's exactly right.
And they're not going to walk in militarily with guns blazing. They're going to do it just like you said. If we can manufacture fentanyl, and we can do it, and we can ship it in however we get it in there, we'll weaken their economy. We'll weaken their infrastructure. We'll weaken their population.
Exactly.
We'll cause them so much problems that they have to expend so much resources to fight that. They're not over here developing something else, some other technology that would compete with us.
And we are complicit in this
Oh, absolutely.
by leaving the border wide open
Yep.
down there in Mexico. Now, Chinese would probably find another way to get
Oh, of course
in.
they will.
But, I mean, why are we making it so bloody easy for them?
I don't know. You know, we've done that. We've been on that suicide track
Yep.
since 1952. We've always been looking at the better side of the person or country, even though we know we're getting screwed.
We decided to work with China because, well, you know, it's a huge mass of people. They eat rice and smoke cigarettes. But you know, what if we bought lots of things from them real cheap and brought them over here? So that men's shirts, we put the textile industry over there. Men's shirts that you paid $40 for, you could buy them for $6
Yeah.
or $8. And shoes and suits and cars and TVs and on and on it
It goes
goes.
on and on. Yep, that's right.
What we did was we built an economic monster.
Yes. We didn't learn from WW2. We did not learn that when we entered World War II, we went into Germany and to Japan, particularly Japan, rebuilt their industries with state-of-the-art, and they knew that they could produce better, bigger, and faster than we could with our old antiquated equipment because they had the brand new stuff.
Yep.
Look what the Germans and the Japanese did to the steel business, for example. I mean, they wiped us right off the map with it eventually.
Yeah. But you know, the Japanese were smart enough
Oh, God, you're not
to
kidding.
realize that the Constitution that MacArthur wrote for them
Yep.
was in their best interest, and that the United States treated them very fairly.
Yeah, and they didn't have to expend a dime for self-defense.
Right. Yeah, because we demilitarized.
Yeah, we
them.
said you can't. They
Yeah.
said, "Well, all right,
Yeah,
all right."
I'm convinced.
Yeah, I'm
we don't
convinced
need
we're not
that
going to
stuff.
spend any money.
Yeah. The Japanese are among our most trusted allies.
Yep.
Because I think MacArthur, well, I know MacArthur, learned from World War I that the punishment that was meted out to Germany in the form of reparations
Just brought them back
caused World War II.
badder and bigger and badder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if you asked me the cause of World War II, I would say to you World War I.
One, you're right.
Yeah. But we didn't do that with Japan. We didn't take any cruel and unusual punishment. We didn't box them into a corner and hit them over the head continuously for doing to us what they did. We forgave them,
Yeah, that's right.
and we worked with them, and we rebuilt them. And we did the same thing in Germany to a large extent. Now, things got confused over there because we had the French sector, the British sector,
Yeah.
and the Russian sector. But the whole thing, the whole Japanese thing was one great big positive, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. So speaking of positives and negatives, I was thinking perhaps we could talk briefly about Iran.
Okay.
Now, over there, they are having riots, they're having street demonstrations. Over 200 people have been killed, which probably means there's probably been over 1,000
Yeah, you don't
killed.
know.
Over headpieces, scarves
Yep.
that women wear over their hair. They're not allowed to show their hair in public because it will incite men.
Yeah.
So-
the hair issue is is the little part that floats up to the top that you can see.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of that's just the trigger that's triggering some of the
Yep.
underlying dissatisfactions.
But the women have said that Hajib, I believe it is only just a little tiny particle of the problem.
Yep, exactly.
The real problem is we're not even second-class citizens. We're about fourth-class citizens. We're treated like dirt.
One step below a goat, but one step over a goat, but one step below a camel. That's usually defined.
There you go.
That was the status of women.
Yeah, it's still Now, if you go back to the Shah in Iran, Iranians were the best educated people in the Middle East,
That's right, they were.
and they probably still are.
I was good friends of the son of the Shah of the education minister of the Shah of Iran. And he was the nicest guy I ever met. I still haven't contact. I haven't heard from him now in 2 or 3 years. I don't know what happened to him, but his entire family were all PhDs and highly educated people.
Yeah.
And they were well-to-do because he used to amaze me, the stuff he'd buy.
Oil money.
Well, money.
Money.
And then tell the truth, I thought he was Italian for 6 or 8 months. I never thought of Iran, Iranian.
Yeah.
But
And don't call me an Arab.
no,
I'm a Persian.
Persian, that's right. But then I was down to that place one time and I saw this picture on the mantle of this guy with the ribbons and the hats and the braids and everything. I said, "Who's that?" He says, "That's my father." He said, "He's dead now. He passed away." But he said he was I said, "What was it? What?" He said, "Well, he was the minister of education under the Shah." I said, "Oh, that explains a lot of things here. Oh, you can go down and buy a $2,000 watch, just like, I'll take it."
Yeah. So, I had a friend that had a very similar experience. His daughter went to a private school, behavioral and issues and all, and she had a girlfriend. They really spent a lot of time together. They both were fighting through problems and everything, and she'd come home on weekends and talk about her friend, and her friend, when they graduate, was going to take her and her whole family over to Jordan, and they were going to have a vacation, and they were going to have a tour of the Middle East. And John said to me, like that's ever going to happen, but guess what? Her father was the president of Jordanian Airways.
Mm-hmm.
And it all happened.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And John came back and just said, wealth they had was incredible. Yeah. And that's part of the problem over there. You got the wealth up
Yeah.
here.
Oh, yeah.
And down below is the
he had a
teeming masses.
photo album. This is their house in this part of the country. This is their ski place where they go in the winter up in the mountains to ski. They go hunting in this lodge that they own. It just went on and on.
Yep. So, going back to Iran, so they're fighting over there in the streets.
Mm-hmm.
They are the sworn enemy of the Saudi Arabians.
Yep, that's true.
They are the source of all of the terrorism, not all of terrorism, but a lot of the terrorism. They're the financial source of the terrorism in the Middle East.
Because they got money.
So we have this not terrible country, but we have the terrible leadership of the mullahs over there. And we have us, dealing with Saudi Arabia. Now, Saudi Arabia, we've had, like any pair of lovers, there's been spats.
Yep.
Lovers' quarrels. Not the least of which was 9/11. But we've always had the agreement with Saudis, anything happens, we will defend you militarily.
Yep.
And with that, we got cooperation. But when we had this administration come in, and the worst words out of Biden's mouth was that Saudi Arabia was a pariah
Yep.
on the national scene, on the international scene. And then he goes, because of Obama and John Kerry, who came up with the Iran nuclear treaty, that when Donald Trump became president, he dismissed it, he canceled it. They are in Biden's ear. We got to get that back. We got to get that back. We got to get that back. So Biden then starts sending emissaries over there, including Kerry, to redo the Iran. Let's re-sign it, and we'll give you all the billions of dollars that we are holding in escrow.
That's right. I remember the pallets.
Pallets. The Saudis look at this and say, you're playing footsie with our biggest enemy
Yep.
in the Middle East, and you're going to give them billions of dollars, which they will in turn use against Saudi Arabia.
Oh, absolutely.
Because they want our oil. They want our oil fields. They want to invade Saudi Arabia. It's as simple as that. Well, and then in the next scene of our little movie, we have President Biden going over there and saying,
With his hat in his hand. Oh, please.
could I please have more oil?
And just before, it wasn't too long before that, we were going to divest ourselves of all oil, of all.
Yeah, but the Saudi oil is different.
Yeah, well,
It doesn't
all of a
stay-
sudden now,
Yeah.
they're not. Well, fossil fuels aren't so much the bad guy.
So, can you pump 1 million or 2 million extra barrels a day and send it to us? And
They just said
so
no.
Saudis said, let me think about it. And then they issued a press release that instead of upping,
Yeah, they cut a couple
they
billion
cut
off.
2 million barrels. Oh. So now, Biden administration is walking around saying, those ungrateful, dirty, rotten critters.
Yeah, but you were just calling them names not too long ago.
Yeah. So
We're going to
you
put them out
called
of
them a
business.
pariah. You started playing footsie with Iran. And also, the Kerry and Obama are no fans of Saudi Arabia.
No.
And you start issuing news briefs about, and then you start the old 9/11 stuff again. And didn't you wonder why we didn't jump all over your request?
No, yeah, I know. That's
That's
yeah,
a
I
real
think
mystery, huh?
Everybody thought that. That was just the dumbest thing.
So what do we make of our State Department?
We don't have a State Department.
Does anybody have a clue?
No. Well,
I mean, if a bozo like me
yeah.
can figure this out, what about these super brains that are down in Washington?
Nope. It's everything's an enigma today.
Yeah.
You know, this is right, but this is the other way. This looks like this, but then it's the other way. It's so confusing and so undisciplined and unguided. So everything we go, we're just going here, we're going there, we're doing this, we're doing this. We're not doing anything.
If you could kill the bear with a rifle shot, why are you shooting him with a shotgun?
I don't
mean,
know. It's
all the extra damage you're causing and everything. I mean, what are they doing? There's no synergy to it. There is absolutely no plan. I'm convinced of it. But that's Biden.
Oh, he's probably the worst pick that party could have come up with. There was so many better picks.
I agree with you 1,000%. But let's take a look at the rest of them. I mean,
Well, I don't necessarily mean out of the group that they had that you saw the debates from. I mean, as a whole of the country, there were so many people that could have filled that position well, but they don't.
because politics is a dirty deal. You know, and most people say, I don't
want anything to do with it.
I don't want to do it.
Nope. There's been people that they wanted to run for office. They said, I'm not going to do it. There's no way I want to do that.
You know, if you watch Fox Financial, Jerry Baker is on. He's got a show, a half an hour show of political commentary, and on Saturday mornings, and it repeats on Sunday mornings too. He's British, and he's the retired editor of the Wall Street Journal. I'm in awe of his brilliance, and his command of the English language is just extraordinary.
There are some very smart people out there.
Boy, there are.
15, Bill.
Okay. I would like to read a little bit of his column, one of his columns. If I had to pick the most worrying characteristic of our current dystopia, I would choose the unsettling disconnect between the seriousness of the challenges we face and the public discourse that is supposed to be addressing them. A perilous war rages in Europe. A failing tyrant with nuclear weapons launches one desperate new wave of cannon fodder against a nation whose defenses we are financing and reinforcing. In Asia, the emerging Chinese superpower is in the throes of a significant economic and social upheaval that may propel it toward the full-scale confrontation it increasingly threatens with Taiwan, a nation whose people we are pledged to defend. At home, we're caught in the worst of economic traps as the Federal Reserve inflicts unavoidable monetary pain to kill the surging inflation incurred by its avoidable mistake. When minds do seem to be focused on the challenges at hand, the words that come out are often nonsensical babble. The current president is the embodiment of this. His mood seems to oscillate between semi-somnolent incoherence and inflammations of angry hysteria. He said the COVID pandemic is over, but insists on maintaining emergency measures. He claims prices are rising only by an inch. He confuses friends and allies with his multiple pronouncements on the U.S. posture towards the defense of Taiwan. The confusion complete, this is then all translated back into administrative English by an attentive staff as the puzzlement we feel gets more ominous. We are used to politicians bending facts and logic to fit their aims, but the problem goes well beyond political rhetoric. Our larger discourse is dominated by cultural authorities who want us to believe things that the human mind rebels against. That there is no such thing as biological sex. That the way to fight past discrimination is with present discrimination. That not punishing crime is the way to prevent crime. That words can mean whatever they tell us they mean. These are the nostrums of the dominant progressives in our culture, but we shouldn't kid ourselves that conservatives aren't also susceptible to impossible ideas and implausible theories. It's inescapable that part of the answer lies in the collapse of the traditional institutions of authority, the stability of the two-parent family, the primacy of faith, and the cohesion of a wider community not only conferred an order on people's lives, but established a larger sovereignty of the truth on them. Loving but firm parental leadership, the eternal verities of religion, the obligations to a wider social unit of shared values imposed a structure of epistemic guardrails. It is not that this structure constrained us all to believe the same things, religiously, politically, or otherwise, but it established the prior understanding that there is such a thing as a higher truth that mocks propositions and ideas that defy it. When men choose not to believe in God, G.K. Chesterton famously said, they do not thereafter believe in nothing. They then become capable of believing in anything.
Good point.
That sums up
Yeah,
in brilliant prose what you and I have been talking
that's
about.
what I was going to say. We've been expounding on that for weeks.
It's so a couple of times he's been watching our show here.
He just says it better than we do.
A lot better. But he's there's one other thing I hope I can find quickly. He's talking about the left. Okay. Virtue votes Democratic. Only one side wants to see democracy, help the disadvantaged, distribute resources fairly, and save the planet. The left has also deemed itself morally superior. Peace, love, and understanding and all that. Conservative ideas and solutions are characterized as the product of self-interest, bigotry, and greed. He had a line in here, jeepers, I can't find it, but he was mentioning something about Trump, and he mentioned some of the utterances that he comes up with that are far-fetched or off the wall, and he couches it as this from a man who may well be elected president in 2024. So after all this crap, what do you think Trump's chances are of being reelected in 2024? And as a subset to that, can he run for a second term after that? Or is it a total of 8 years, or do the 8 years have to be contiguous?
I'm not by any means a constitutional scholar. I don't know, but I don't think he can. I think it's 8 or out.
Yeah.
But what do I think his chances of re-election are in 24? not really good. And here's why. Biden got a lot of votes this time, not because they wanted Biden, but they voted against Donald Trump.
If Mike Pence had run instead of Donald Trump,
It'd have been a landslide, a real landslide, not Trump's idea of a landslide. You're right. I totally agree with you.
Yep.
Mike Pence would have, because he doesn't have the negative baggage. You got two people running for office. Ideally, it's I like him, and I like him better than I like this one. Not I like him and I hate this one.
bingo.
He's carrying too much baggage.
Yeah.
He's got too much stuff. The opponents can go back and say, "Do you want that fruitcake with his finger on the button? Do you want him doing this? Do you want him doing that?" He can't win.
I would like to think you're 100% right. But the backlash, first of all, I think you and I perhaps better make a prediction on the upcoming elections.
Oh,
The
Massachusetts? That's slam dunk.
Yeah, but I guess nationally.
Oh, nationally. I was going to say, if you want to bet on the Massachusetts governor race, give me Healy. I'll take any money you want on it. There's no chance in hell anybody that Deal's going to beat her.
The worst part about that is, if Deal was a connected politician and the Republicans funneled some money into him, he could have given her a run for her money, because she is a damaged candidate.
Oh, no question about it. She's
a very poor candidate.
She's bottom of the bucket.
Yep.
Deal. Well, let's put it this way: Donald Trump is not the most popular guy in blue Massachusetts.
Right.
In fact, he's 2 steps above Satan. When he gets endorsed by Donald Trump, that's a big negative right there. With
not a good kiss.
Not a good kiss. It's a kiss of death, is what it is. So your opponent all of a sudden got a big jump on it, and then he does. And we're not the brightest light bulbs in the pack, but once in a while we can see what's going on. Then he says, first of all, he agrees with that. The election was rigged, fixed. Yeah. Then he says, I guess Biden really did win. Now he's running again. Now he says, well, maybe Biden didn't win. Well, come on, man. Don't even talk about these wacko theories, because you're just hurting yourself.
Deeply flawed candidate, but he did well in the debates.
Yes, he did. He's not stupid. He's a smart man. Yeah. I think he's probably smarter than Healy.
Oh, I'm sure of that.
But my problem, not problem, but I saw it as I couldn't understand why Doughty. Where we're from, that's Dowdy, but here it's Doughty. Why or who advised him on his political planning to run against Healy before he won the primary? All his fight was with Healy. Yeah. You got to get by Deal before you can get to Healy. Yep. But he didn't do that. He went after Healy.
I think
nobody knew anything about him, because he went with Deal.
Right. Yeah. I think the strategy was, look, I can take her on.
Yeah.
Okay, I know what her problems are. Mm-hmm.
Well, that's fine and good after the primary.
Yeah, but I mean to take care of a little business here first.
Yeah, that's right.
And he couldn't do it. Didn't pull it off. It's a shame, because he would have been a much better candidate.
Yeah, he's a non-political.
Yeah,
he's a businessman.
Maybe that.
He did not have the machine behind him.
Or the cash.
Yeah, well, that's part of the machine. Yeah.
So nationwide, the House goes Republican.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. This morning's latest read from Politico is that it's going to be about 40 seats.
Yeah, probably.
It's going to be a very significant amount. And Politico is also saying that the Senate will go Republican.
Yeah, narrowly probably.
Yep.
Yeah.
If that I'll buy that. I think
Yeah,
that's the way the
I don't have
country
a problem with
is
that
headed.
prediction at all.
So, if the Republicans react wisely to this opportunity that's been laid on their plate, things could be looking up for 2024.
Very.
Because-
If
yeah.
they put somebody in the top position and not a fruitcake of some type,
Governor DeSantis.
DeSantis is
Yep.
one of them. Somebody that's got makes sense and doesn't alienate everybody. Even though DeSantis alienates the real left, too. I think that this country can turn around
I do too.
because of the underlying problems can get solved then.
Yeah. And you know
But
what?
we have to have all three elements in place.
I believe that inflation, unfortunately, inflation is still going to be an issue
Oh,
in
absolutely.
2024. It's going to be with us for a while.
Oh yeah.
And if we can properly point out to the American public, get them to understand, look who destroyed our nation, that look who destroyed our economy, look who has destroyed our school systems,
Yeah.
look who has destroyed our border security, look who has destroyed law enforcement. If they can do that, 2024 should be a slam dunk.
Could be. Yeah, I think you're probably right.
But
But have
I'll-
you noticed, on that vein too, who haven't you heard from for past 6 months or 8 months? AOC,
well,
Ivana Presley, all the big mouths
she
are
had,
awful quiet now.
she had a rally someplace, all four of them.
Yeah, I know.
About 40 people showed up.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you see, the U.S., we are rejecting socialism. And the results of this election are going to prove that. What's going to be interesting, I think, will be Biden's reaction to it all the following morning.
The only thing we got to stop doing is putting up these lumps of coal, like Lawrence, or what's his name, in Georgia, the
Oh, yeah. The
football player.
Herschel Walker.
Herschel Walker, God almighty, you talk about an embarrassment to the party. Good God, all of his 52 every time he opens his mouth, it's something that,
We'd be better off with that wastebasket.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
at least that wouldn't say stupid things.
That's what I mean. We got to stop doing that. We got to stop hanging out with the Gateses and then the
Trump's boy.
yeah.
And if he wins,
We got to.
Trump will be gloating.
Oh my God,
If he loses, then we lose that key seat in Georgia.
that's right.
So it's, I'm rooting like hell for us to take the Senate back, but at what cost?
Yeah.
Well, folks, I had 1, 2, 3 folders of things to talk about. We didn't get to any of them. And Dwayne's got a explosion in the paper factory over there also.
But they're topical and they're really not dated too much. We can continue with some of these.
Yeah. But I think this was as good a 2 hours as we
Yeah.
have spent. I mean, we talked about some vital things.
That's right.
Probably not well, but we talked about them.
We talked about it.
That's right. Hey, folks, hope you enjoyed the show. Hope you were learned something from it, or at least, learned what a pair of nutcakes we are. Yeah, okay. Well, anyway, look forward to seeing you back here again in a couple of weeks. Take care.
Take care, everybody. Enjoy the fall.
Yeah.